Hello and a warm welcome. You're watching South Central with me, Jude Sanath. Now, this is the one show where we break down everything making news right here in South India, from business, investments, boardroom action, politics, policy, and a whole lot more. Now, before we deep dive into everything making news right now, let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. At BioAsia 2026, the Telangana government announces fresh investments in life sciences, vaccine production and GCCs. IT Minister Sridhar Babu says 100 acres of land have been acquired to expand the state's Genome Valley. COVID-19 may have ended, but Hyderabad-based life sciences major biotech says it will double down on vaccine production. Its management tells ET Now that the company is entering phase 3 efficacy trials for 4 new vaccines. Bengaluru-based fintech startup Stable Money announces a pre-series funding round of $25 million led by Peak 15 partners. On the show today, Harish Reddy of Stable Money breaks down where that money is going. India's GCC leasing activity touched 31 million square feet in 2025, says JLL data. Bengaluru saw 34% market share in leasing, followed by Hyderabad, accounting for 20% of all new leasing last year. Tamil Nadu's Finance Minister Thangam Thennarasu presents the state's interim budget ahead of elections. Both revenue deficit and fiscal deficit see a sharp rise as the government blames GST rationalization and tax devolution for its fiscal health. On our top story first, at the BioAsia Summit 2026 in Telangana, the Hyderabad government has announced a series of investments in the life sciences space. In fact, these investments range from GCCs to laboratories to even an expansion of the state's Genome Valley. Now, rather interesting here are names making these investments. Names like Vaccindo Healthcare, Animal Healthcare, Opella Healthcare, US-based Credence Inc. and Oryx Propellant, all of whom will make investments in areas like GCCs, vaccine production, and a life sciences campus. The investments themselves are believed to be in the range of around 300 crore rupees to 1,000 crore rupees. So let's run through some of these investments first. Right on top is Opella Healthcare with a 42,000 proposed GCC, a square foot proposed GCC campus for its customer care needs, expected to generate employment for 500 individuals. Indonesia-based healthcare major Vaccindo Animal Healthcare is expected to be investing around 400 crore rupees towards generating 350 jobs at a vaccine production facility in the city for animal vaccination needs. The AI and data sciences company based in the US, that's Credence Inc., will invest 300 crore rupees over a 2 to 3 year timeline towards an innovation hub with a promise of 2,000 jobs in a 2-year period. Back home in India, Oryx Propellant will be investing around 1,000 crore rupees in a new million square foot life sciences park that will take form and shape over a 12-acre plot of land at Hyderabad's Genome Valley. In fact, let's listen into what Hyderabad's IT minister had to say about these proposed investments in the life sciences space.
You know, Opella Healthcare, which is a France-based company, has come up to put their GCC center here, consumer-based customer care company, which shall facilitate for 500 people employment in 42,000 square facility. And I'm not trying to put it across how much they are going to invest for square feet and all. This is the thing what they have mentioned. I'm putting it right across.
In fact, speaking of Genome Valley, the minister also added that over 100 acres of fresh land acquisition has been conducted to ensure that the Hyderabad's Genome Valley enters its 4th phase of expansion. In fact, a lot of space has already been allocated to entrepreneurs who have expected or evinced interest in setting up shop and setting up base at the Genome Valley itself. Let's listen in.
They would like to develop a new large format life sciences campus in Genome Valley as a part of their long-term commitment to strengthen Indian life sciences ecosystem in 1 million square feet of advanced laboratory infrastructure in 12-acre site.
Well, staying with action from the BioAsia Summit right here in Hyderabad, COVID-19 may be a thing of the past, but vaccine maker Bharat Biotech has said that its focus will firmly remain on continuing to manufacture vaccines as a core area of its business. In fact, the company said that nearly 4 of its vaccines are entering phase 3 efficacy trials, and that the company will also be launching, well, India's largest ever tuberculosis vaccine trial. Now, all this essentially means that even as the focus remains on vaccines itself, the company is also focusing a whole lot on sickle cell treatment, even as its management told me a little earlier in the day that the entry of Chinese biotech firms and new age biotech startups with deep investment pockets do not quite cause it worry. Let's listen into a slice of that conversation.
At Bharat, we're very focused on innovative therapeutics. That means vaccines, that means oncology, that means autoimmunity. Yes, we're known as the household name for vaccines. Prior to COVID, we had close to around 18 odd vaccines licensed. We're the 5th largest vaccine manufacturer in the world. That being said, we're still going to double down on vaccines. Right. As I speak today, we have 4 vaccines entering phase 3 efficacy trials. We're going to be conducting the largest clinical trial for tuberculosis vaccine in a phase 3 study in India that's being planned for this year. Right. We also have phase 3 trials planned for non-typhoidal salmonella, Shigella, and chikungunya as well. Chikungunya, as you know, keeps coming here and there during different seasons of India. It really doesn't get you sick enough to go to the hospital, but it does cause a high amount of body pain and myalgia and morbidity as well. So we're very excited about what we're doing with our double down approach on vaccines. And we've also started a new division for cell and gene therapies, as we know that the future of medicine lies with oncology and cancer. And CAR T cell therapies have given us this opportunity to cure blood cancers. And that's what we're trying to do here at Bharat as well, and ensure that Indian customers and our customers outside of India can benefit from these therapeutics.
So what you're saying essentially, Reaches, is that it will continue to be vaccines that drive the needle for you at Bharat Biotech from a commercial standpoint. I mean, I'm talking revenues and growth, by way of revenues itself. Are you falling back on perhaps what is your strength to continue driving revenues itself for the near to medium term?
Yes, absolutely. Continuing doubling down on vaccines, but many of these therapeutics, it requires the same kind of knowledge. It's the same skill set, it's the same knowledge. Making a vaccine is very similar to making a cell therapy, is very similar to making like a monoclonal antibody for a cancer indication. So we already have the inherent ability to manufacture these different platforms. And that's what we're trying to leverage right now in terms of our scale.
Right. Reaches, any talk about life sciences and biotech, you can't quite help but talk so much about developing proprietary IP, and something that's got everyone talking about is the absolute need and imperative drive to make that happen at this point in time. In terms of staying globally relevant thanks to IP itself, what are some of the plans, the pipeline for Bharat Biotech on the IP front? Where are you looking at, and what kind of IPs are you looking to focus on going forward?
Sure. So we're a 30-year-old company. We've applied for 400 grants. We've secured 220 of them. I think it's very hard to find a company from India or the global south that has that much ability to generate IP. And these IP are primarily with our vaccines as well. I just mentioned to you we have 4 vaccines entering phase 3 efficacy trials. So efficacy trials means these are all innovator vaccines. I need to go into the field, vaccinate study subjects, and see if the vaccine is working or not. So definitely, I mean, IP is the buzzword today, but this was our ethos and modus operandi since inception 30 years ago as well. I see it's becoming very prevalent in the Indian pharmaceutical world. We know Government of India are taking big steps to incentivize companies towards generating IP. And us as a pharmaceutical company are putting more money into R&D as well. So I think all of these activities coalescing is a welcome step, but I don't think R&D is new to us.
Absolutely. And speaking of R&D itself, for Bharat Biotech, what are some of the big scientific and financial bets or risks that you will be taking in the immediate future, given India's relatively low tolerance for long-drawn biotech cycles? I mean, there is a need to productize fast and to make those bets at the time and place that we find ourselves in. So where are you looking at as far as that direction is concerned?
So at least from a Bharat standpoint, we're a privately held company. We get to stay stubbornly focused on some of our R&D or research interests. Our chairman is extremely visionary and he wants to innovate for the country of India. Our biggest bets are greenfield expansion in Bhubaneswar. It's a facility it's commissioned right now with a 2,000 crore odd investment. And then we have a close to around 1,000 crore investment in the cell and gene therapy division that we've just started. We've made a recent flurry of announcements in this space as well. So that's where our bets are going, scaling up our vaccine ambitions and at the same time developing an ecosystem for oncology and autoimmunity in India, which is completely lacking right now.
Absolutely. And you talk about all of this that's in the pipeline and that many companies, including yours, are also focusing on in terms of their growth. Policy is such a crucial part towards making a lot of these plans, come into being itself. Do you feel there are policy hurdles at this time in place that could perhaps be an impediment to Indian biotech companies hitting the growth trajectory and continuing to stay there? And if yes, what are some of the policy go-arounds that you feel might well be in vogue, at least for the foreseeable future?
So before talking about current issues, we've made a lot. I want to step back and tell you that we made a lot of progress in the last couple of decades.
Right.
Our drug regulator, Central Drugs, CDSCO and the DCGI, have come up to a high maturity level when it comes to the other NRAs or national regulatory agencies like the FDA or EMA. Our regulatory status is around 4 out of 5, which is very high. 5 is the highest, the pinnacle. So we've come a long way. So I think the government has really supported our maturity level to progress. And when the regulator stringency level goes up, all the entire pharma world in India benefits from that. But more can be done. For innovative R&D, there are still a lot of speed breakers along the way. It takes you close to around 9 months to get a molecule to inject it into mice for preclinical studies, to do safety studies in mice. In America and China, that takes anywhere between 2 to 3 months. So if we can bridge that 2 to 3 months to 9 month gap, I think that's the sweet spot we all need to work towards. And I think this is a responsibility we need to take with the government and with other policy decision makers to get there.
Absolutely. So much to do on the timeline front in terms of making business easier as well for biotech companies and those in the life sciences space. But what kind of threats do you see on the horizon? Policy, of course, is one area that we can debate a whole lot, but simply in terms of threats. Fast-moving Chinese biotech firms, is that a threat that legacy companies like yours are facing and having to endure? Also, biotech startups with deep pockets thanks to investment capital behind them. Are these posing a bit of an existential crisis? Or if perhaps existential crisis is too tough a word to use, maybe a clear and present risk for legacy names like yours?
No, I don't think there's any clear and present risk. More players, more capital, society benefits with innovative pharmaceutical or biological products. Fully for that. The threat of China is definitely a threat, but again, they are showing us the way. One could say, yes, they're going to come and take away our markets, but then they're also showing you a business model that's working. They're also showing you their ability to innovate. So that's a beacon of hope for us in the global south, that's something we can emulate. Some of those policies, if we can try to assimilate and try to implement in India, coupled with some of the great companies we have here in India, I think it's very much possible. So I remain very bullish. The last 2 decades, all of the success with the chemical pharmaceutical manufacturers, mostly the ones that make the oral tablets or the sterile injectables. I think the future, the next 2 decades, is going to be a biological wave with vaccines and biopharmaceutical products taking the limelight.
Absolutely. And what are some of these bets that Bharat Biotech will be making, keeping in mind the next decade or so, and which direction are you looking at as far as these bets are concerned?
So, as mentioned, vaccines for pandemic preparedness and for routine use. The second would be oncology. There are still blood cancers and solid organ cancers that need to be cured in India. And the third is antimicrobial resistance. India has a high amount of antibiotic abuse that has just come out in a recent Lancet paper as well.
Right.
The amount of the disease burden when it comes to hospital-acquired infections is tremendous. And we need to create either vaccines or therapeutics for these pathogens that are very difficult to treat.
Well, Bharat Biotech's Chief Development Officer, Rachel Zella, they're telling me that the company is choosing to double down on its vaccine production business. But moving on now to some news from the venture capital space. Bengaluru-based fintech startup Stable Money has just announced its Series C round of funding, totaling to $25 million. The round saw participation from Peak 15 Partners and Z47. The money, of course, will go into the company itself, choosing to focus on some of its products and market expansion. Remember, Stable Money is in the safe investment space, largely meaning FDs, gold and silver bonds, and of course gold and silver mutual funds. Now, joining us to discuss all about this money and where it's going is Harish Reddy, co-founder at Stable Money. Harish, firstly, thanks so much for joining us on the broadcast. My first question to you, you've called this a pre-series round. So when does the entire Series C round complete, and what magnitude of fundraise are you looking at for the entire Series C round itself?
So, no, so we are very well capitalized. In fact, our Series B round just happened 6 months back, where we had raised a $20 million check, from Mr. Nandan Nilekani's Fundamentum. Pre-Series C just happened on the heels of it, so we are not looking to raise any further. We would also have 400 to 500 crores in the bank account, which would give us a good growth path for the next 1 to 2 years. So we are not looking to raise more.
Right, Harish. And what does the recent funding now do in terms of valuation itself? What will the company now be valued at?
So we would be at around $175 million of valuation. That would be ballpark 1,600 crore of valuation. We were at 126 the last round and 53 million the round before.
Right, and where does the money go from here? Which areas are you choosing to focus this latest round of funding in?
Yeah, so there are 4 priority areas for us to deploy the funds. One is talent. We want to hire exceptional people, for the next 3 years of Stable Money's growth. The second is on technology. We've been growing very rapidly. In fact, we've been growing 3x each year in terms of the number of customers, the assets under management, the bookings, etc., that happen every month. So we need to ramp up our technology. The third thing that we are going to focus on is building more supply. So we have products where we have dependencies on third parties, like banks and NBFCs. We are going to increase a lot of supply on that. The fourth thing that we are going to spend money is on marketing so that we can have more demand on the platform.
Well, you just spoke about AUMs and customer growth itself. So if I last remember correctly, my last reading of your AUMs were that they stood in the range of 3,000 crore rupees. So post-funding now, where does that AUM number go from here, Harish?
Yeah, so today we are managing around 5,000 crore of assets, and we've been growing 3x year on year. December of 24, we were at a 1,500 crore. December of 25, we closed at 4,500 crore. Next year, the targets are very similar. We want to go to around 15,000 crore of AUM by the end of next year. In terms of customers, there have been 2.5 lakh invested users on the platform. We want to take that to close to 1 million by the end of this calendar year. And in terms of the registered user base, we are at 50 lakh registered users today. We want to take that to 1.5 crore by the end of next year.
Right. So pivoting to the product pipeline that you have at Stable Money, what is it that we can expect in terms of product offerings itself, and more specifically, which product categories will you be focusing on going forward?
Understood. So I'll just give you a brief of what Stable Money does. Stable Money, as the name suggests, focuses on safe investment products for retail users. In a world where everybody is moving towards high risk and high return asset classes, we want to stay focused on low risk as a category. So we have 3 products on the Stable Money app. One is a marketplace of FDs where we've integrated with around 15 banks whose journey could be digitally booked on the stable money app within 2 minutes. The idea is that we bring banks which offer 1.5 to 2% interest rate delta as compared to the large banks, and using the DICGC insurance of up to 5 lakh rupee per bank and bringing in 15 banks, users can book up to 75 lakh rupees of insured FDs at a 1.5 to 2% differential delta. So that's the flagship product that we have. The second product that we launched last year is an online bonds online bonds platform, where we bring out the bonds of NBFCs, corporates, and government to the retail users in a market which was heavily institutional focused. We want to give that access to retail users. The third product that we have is gold and silver mutual funds. Again, this is something that people look as an orthogonal or a contrabet to equities, and therefore perceive as safe investments. So these are the three products that we have. In terms of growth, even though all three of them have been growing at a very rapid pace, what we are truly happy about is the growth in the bonds market. The last year has been exceptional, where we've grown 10x in terms of the monthly sales on bonds. In fact, each month we are growing in double digits. We believe this is a mutual fund-like movement for the bond industry for retail, so that is one of our prime focuses is going to be.
Right, Harish. So given all the work that you're doing in the retail investor space, I'm just curious, which regions or which states in South India are seeing the most investor interest on the stable money platform?
Yeah, so I think within South India, state-wise, Karnataka is the largest, and then followed by Telangana and then Kerala. But one of the interesting insights is when we started the stable money, we thought that our user base is going to be very heavy on tier one cities, the likes of Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, etc. But what we are surprised with is participation from tier two cities, towns, and villages. In fact, almost 55 to 56% of our traffic and bookings come from smaller cities as compared to the larger cities. So these are varied cities across states of the country. So these would be smaller districts, the towns within the districts, and there would be thousands of them in the country. So we have user participation from more than 10,000 PIN codes. We have participation across all the states. So our strategy is now focusing on going to these smaller towns and cities, having offline branches so that it can build trust there. Also having focused campaigns towards these smaller cities through programs like a KBC, where we had Mr. Amitabh Bachchan speaking about the stable money app. Also, perhaps participating in sponsoring events like the IPL or the T20 World Cup, where there is a lot of patronage and users would be looking at these things. So the focus is.
Right. So given this interest from tier two towns, would you say towns like Kalaburgi or Mysuru in Karnataka, or maybe even Malappuram or Kozhikode in Kerala would be some of the prime contenders in terms of investor interest from tier two towns?
The names that you mentioned are all there. In fact, the names that most of us might not know of are also very big, something like a Vijayawada in Andhra Pradesh or a Mahbubnagar in Telangana, Mangalore here in Karnataka are showing huge traction.
So do you expect to see more tier two and tier three towns actually showing a whole lot more investor interest on the stable money platform when compared to larger cities, or do you expect this ratio to more or less even out going forward?
What we've realized over the last 2 years is that tier two, tier three cities are still heavily focused on safe investment as a category, as opposed to tier one. And also most fintech apps were not focusing on these cities and these towns. So it presents a beautiful white space for us to go ahead and capture. So our focus is going to be more here, and we think there is going to be more granular participation coming from even more smaller cities and smaller towns and even villages.
Well, on that note, Harish, thanks so much for joining us and breaking down some of these insights into that latest round of funding and where the money will be deployed. Great having you with us here, as always. Well, moving on, President Draupadi Murmu earlier today presided over the International Fleet Review off the coast of Vizag. In fact, the president inspected a formidable assembly of 71 Indian and foreign vessels anchored just off the coastline. The fleet in question comprised 45 Indian Navy ships, 19 visiting warships, and a few more as part of that fleet itself. The review unfolded with a ceremonial steam past by both warships and submarines, precision flypast by naval aircraft, sailing vessel parades, helicopter-led search and rescue demonstrations, and high-intensity combat drills. The president underscored the importance of India's maritime power and said that the Indian Navy is well and truly vigilant in safeguarding the country's naval borders. Take a look.
Standing right in front of INS Savitri, which is going on board, which the media will be sailing to be part of the International Fleet Review, which is going to be the third International Fleet Review of the country, starting from 2001. The President of India, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, President Srimati Murmu, Draupadi Murmu, will be reviewing almost 70 warships which...
Well, on that note, it's about all the time we have on this episode of South Central. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow for more news and updates from South India. For the moment, it's goodbye.